Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Grad Life episode. And we have officially started the new year. This is the first Grad Life of 2021. And we have a very special episode today. We're going to be diving right into how we can be helping graduate students gain more valuable skills that can help them not in just their research, but in for job searching and life skills after they graduate. So I'm here with my co-host.
I'm Elizabeth Mohler. Happy to be here today.
And we are both joined with Dr. Julie Jonkhans. How are you doing today, Julie?
I'm good, thanks. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to everyone here. And I hope everyone's having a safe and hopefully a nice start to the 2021. I know it's been a little bit bumpy. So, Julie, we're here to talk about a very, very cool and exciting initiative that Western offers their students. It's called Own Your Future. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about what Own Your Future is?
Yes, of course. And thank you so much for inviting me to talk about this with you guys today. I think the more that I can let students know about this program, the better. So really, Own Your Future is kind of this response to this changing landscape of the careers for doctoral students. I think if you walked up to any doctoral student on campus and asked them, well, I guess you aren't walking up these days, but ask any doctoral student, what are you going to do after you graduate? It causes a sense of kind of uncertainty and anxiety. And I think a lot of that stems from the narratives that we hear in academia that a PhD prepares you for a tenure track faculty position. And I think that causes that uncertainty and anxiety because we know that not all doctoral students are going on to have those careers. And so the question is kind of what else are they doing? What else is out there for me? So we're really trying to change this narrative with doctoral education right from the start, helping doctoral students recognize that a PhD prepares you for a broad range of careers. There's a lot of ways that you can contribute to society in different sectors. And we're providing workshops and courses and opportunities for students to develop the skills, like you said, the skills and the knowledge and the mindsets to navigate those careers and better prepare themselves for those wide varieties of opportunities out there.
So I'm really interested as an incoming PhD student, or I guess a first year, a newbie to the team, around this notion of changing landscape. And I'm just wondering if you can touch on that a little bit more.
Yeah, and I think we're maybe a little more advanced now, and it's not so much right in the middle of the changing, but I think we've made a lot of advancements in the last even 5 years. But again, traditionally the culture in academia is that the PhD is preparing you for the tenure track position, and that's what you're here to do. You're here to publish papers and create new knowledge, and then become an independent researcher yourself at a higher education institution. And what we've seen in the past 10, 15 years is, we're graduating more doctoral students, more people are preparing or engaging in doctoral education, and yet the number of tenure track faculty positions is not increasing at the same rate. And so we have more doctoral graduates than there are positions. And so doctoral students are looking for opportunities outside of academia. And I think there are a lot of industries that are eager to have people with this advanced degrees and this advanced knowledge and use their abilities to help them contribute to their problems and their challenges that they're trying to solve. And so the changing landscape, I guess, is in higher education about thinking about how can we better prepare students for these broader opportunities and help students recognize that there are more opportunities than the traditional tenure track faculty position.
Yeah, I feel like when it comes to PhD degrees, we're always taught that we've kind of like narrowed our path, that because we're only studying a specific topic, we can only really go for a career that is somewhat related or exactly related to what we're studying. And at first that was very off-putting for me, but then learning that actually all the skills that we learn as PhD students, they can be applied to so many different jobs. And I feel like that's a message that either just gets lost when it comes to starting PhD degrees or when you're trying to decide whether or not you want to do a PhD degree. So I think it's actually quite good that this has been trying to be brought up a lot more.
Yeah. And like you said, kind of the longer that you spend in grad education or in a PhD, the more you're surrounded by those same people who are doing that specialized education, that specialized discipline. And so that's kind of just the narrative and the culture that you're living in academia. And then you start to talk to people or hear about people who are using those similar skills in very different ways or applying them in new contexts. And I think it's really exciting how these knowledge and skills can be applied in other ways as well.
I was really curious. You mentioned a moment or two ago the workshops that you and your team have started to launch, and I've attended a few. But I'm wondering if you can describe for our listeners a little bit more about those workshops.
Yeah. So at this point, I think we offer close to 40 different workshops and a few courses. And it's really grown over the past few years. Just a few years ago, we were, I think, 8. And so we've really been responding to the demand from students from a wide variety of topics. And I think what really differentiates Own Your Future here at Western is that it's not just kind of randomly selected topics that students have told us that they want. We've been very intentional in the design and framework of the program. So before we even started the workshops, the team at the School of Graduate and Postdoctoral Studies did a lot of consultation with the literature and experts, and we came up with a competency framework. And so we have 6 competencies in our program: communication and relationship building, career engagement, teaching and learning, thriving, leadership, and intercultural and social fluency. And so all of our workshops are aligned to each of those 6 competencies. And that what we're trying to do with those 6 competencies is really help doctoral students recognize that what you're learning and developing in your PhD, it extends beyond the course you're taking in quantitative research methods. You're learning to interact with your peers, your mentors, you're developing new projects and leading them to completion. There's really this broader set of professional skills. And so all of our workshops are intended to help you gain more tools and strategies to really develop and enhance those professional skills.
Yeah, I think with like all those skills that one, they're definitely essential for a lot of PhD students, even if a lot of them aren't aware of how important they are. And I guess with the workshops that you offer, and I guess this might be a question that I think I've had a couple of students ask me, when they go for these workshops, are they like counted as like a credited workshop, or is it more of a bonus experience workshop?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's one I hear from students all the time, and one that we've just gone back and forth on so often because it's something we hear so much from students. We don't offer any certificate of completion or any certain requirements, and that's because, again, the program is called Own Your Future. We recognize that all doctoral students, you're coming into your programs with various different backgrounds and experiences. You're here for different reasons. And the way that we intend the program to be used is that you pick and choose the workshops that are most helpful and aligned with your personal and professional goals. One of my colleagues likes to describe it as like an open 4-year conference. If you go to a conference, you kind of pick and attend the sessions that are most interesting to you, and then sometimes you go and you have a coffee with a colleague when there's a talk that you don't want to go to. And that's kind of the way that we see students participating in the program. It's really up to you to customize your participation and engagement in the workshops that you think are most relevant to you.
That's a really interesting way to look at it, the 4-year open conference.
Mm-hmm.
Is there, one workshop, I know it might be hard to pick, that's really stood out to you as being really successful? You've gotten feedback from students, it's really been impactful in how they navigate transitioning from their studies into the world of work?
Oh, that's a good question, and it's hard for me to answer. You're going to get me in trouble with my partners because they're all fantastic. I can honestly say I've attended every single workshop, and every single one is everyone is contextualizing the information to doctoral students. Everyone is such an engaging facilitator, so it's hard for me to pick one. But for the sake of the question, I'll give you 3. I'll pick one resource that it doesn't necessarily involve attending a workshop, because I know doctoral students don't always have time to attend. I'll give you one that I think has been very popular and will be beneficial to all doctoral students, and then I'll give you my hidden gem. I'll call that my hidden gem.
Awesome.
Okay, so the one resource that we have available that I think all doctoral students should do, it's called our Own Your Future self-assessment. And I don't know, have either of you had the opportunity to do the self-assessment?
Yes, I have.
Yes, I
Okay.
have as well.
Oh, that's great to hear. Okay, so this does not require attending a workshop at a specific date and a specific time. You can do it at any time. It's self-paced, it's online, and it's available to all students. Really, again, what we're trying to do with the self-assessment is help doctoral students recognize the broad sets of skills that they're developing in their PhD. And what you do is you go in and you rate yourself. It's an assessment on your comfort or your proficiency in completing certain tasks and having certain abilities. And so in each of those 6 competencies that I mentioned, we break that down into smaller skills and tasks. So you go in and you get a question. How do you feel? How are your abilities at communicating information to a broad audience? And you say that's something that I'm either really good at, or that's something that I could use maybe a few more tools or strategies to do. So you rate your proficiency across all those competencies, and you get your report. And that's, again, as I mentioned, the program is self-directed, and that's how we envision students engaging in the program. Like I said, we know you're very busy and you don't have a lot of time. And so when you do the self-assessment, you start to find those pockets of, okay, well, these are the areas that I said I maybe could use a bit more help in. And then we have our workshops that are aligned to those areas. And so that's how we kind of envision students engaging in the program. So that's, I think, a really easy resource that's always accessible and can be done at any time. And then the workshop that I think would be beneficial to majority of doctoral students is probably our time management workshop. It's probably one of our most popular workshops. Gavin, you're nodding. I don't know if you've attended that one.
I think I was close to attending one, but it conflicted with something else. But I really did want to attend it.
I know. I always find that ironic when people can't come to the time management workshop.
It shows that I do need to attend it because I could use a little bit more help with my time management.
Yeah, and I mean, I get that, and that's why I'm recommending it, is because whether you're coming in from a master's degree or you worked before or you're just here for personal interest, a doctoral student is really hard to manage your time. And sometimes you tend to stop seeing some friends, or maybe you give up some activities that you enjoy because you really want to focus on your research. And this workshop has really practical tools, strategies that you can use and support. It's led by Ryan Mackay. He's one of the counselors here on campus that meets often with graduate students. And like I said, I've attended every year, and I always pick up a new app or technique that some of the participants share. And so that's a really great one to attend. And then I said I'd give a hidden gem, right? So one of the areas that I think students tend to look over is leadership. I think when students are picking from the workshops that we offer, you tend to go into things like the writing workshops or the time management, things that seem very tangible and applicable to your degree right away. But one of my favorite hidden gems is our workshop where we do Clifton Strengths training. So Western, and maybe that's the one, Elizabeth, you mentioned that you might be registered for an upcoming workshop. I wonder if that's,
yes.
Okay, yay. I highly recommend that one. So that one's offered by Alex Elias, who's trained in Clifton Strengths training and actually will coach students and staff and people here at Western. So I, as a professional development coordinator, I've taken many assessments in my role. And this one is by far the most insightful and just helpful assessment I've ever, and I guess accurate too, I've ever taken. It gives you your top 5 talents or strengths. And the idea, it's from like a list, I think, of about 30. And the idea is that everyone has a unique set of talents. And the research has shown that people who exercise and use these talents on a day-to-day basis in their work experience more value and meaning in their work. And so I think it's particularly important for doctoral students. In doctoral education, I have a PhD myself, so that's why I'm kind of speaking from experience here, because you often don't get a lot of external feedback. You don't often take tests or have assignments due very frequently. You kind of get interspersed feedback throughout your PhD. You often can end up comparing yourself to others. And I think sometimes that leads to us feeling like we might have deficits when we see, oh, that person has done all of this, or they're really good at that, but I'm not good at that, or I haven't done that. And so this particular workshop, I think, really helps change that narrative and remind everyone that you have unique talents and strengths that make you good at what you do. And that's different from everyone else. And that's something that should be celebrated and valued, because the only way we're going to make progress is if people bring different talents and strengths to work and challenges. So that, I think, is a really fantastic workshop. And I know in my personal and professional life, I continue to think back on my talents and strengths and think about how I can leverage them more in the work that I do. So that's kind of my hidden gem that I would recommend from the program as well.
Honestly, I think that workshop would probably help. I don't want to say save, but definitely would help a lot of PhD students maybe overcome imposter syndrome when they start to probably doubt that, oh, I don't know if I have any skills or something that's going to be able to help me after I finish my research or to complete my research. But maybe this workshop will actually be able to help them realize that you have probably a lot more skills and talent that you give yourself credit for. And definitely when it comes to comparing to other people, it's never the best thing to do because everyone's different and everyone has their own strengths. But I think that's a hidden gem, I think, that people would probably quote unquote treasure quite a bit when it comes to PhD and student development. And I also noticed that with the Own Your Future, I attended mainly these types, but you guys offer not just on like improving like self skills, but you also have workshops for helping students who struggle with academic writing, especially when it comes to their thesis, and when it comes to understanding the job market. Because when we think of academic careers, we only know maybe to search for people either via email directly or use research gates. But you guys offer workshops on how to best use your LinkedIn profile and other programs that could help you find jobs. And is there any more information you probably want to tell the audience of how they could best use these workshops to their advantage?
Yeah, of course. So yeah, like I said, we have probably over 40 workshops, and I think I only just mentioned two. I could probably have a chat about every single workshop. I think I'll do a little plug for the career engagement workshops. I think because I think that's one that students are often looking for, and just talk a little bit about what they are and what they aren't, because I think sometimes there is a bit of a mismatch there too. So when I often talk to doctoral students about careers, the number one question that I'll get is, what can I do with my PhD in chemical engineering or political science or their specific discipline? And the problem with that question is that it can often lead to us getting stuck, because the careers out there aren't necessarily jobs for a PhD in your specific discipline. There's actually a wide variety of careers out there, and you might not necessarily be using your specific specialized knowledge. And I understand why doctoral students want that job, because you invest so much time in that. That was me too. But it's really important for students to recognize that you have these skills and abilities and strengths, like I was just talking about, that you can really apply to a wider range of challenges and problems and use what you've gained from your PhD in really unique and new ways. So what our workshops in the career engagement do is we actually teach a different way. It's called design thinking, for thinking about your career. So again, when I think doctoral students think about their career, in your education, what you're doing is you're using research and analysis, right, to solve the problem, address the problem in your PhD, right? So I don't know, like, Gavin, what is the question that you're trying to answer with your PhD in a broad sense?
Oh, for me, the question I'm trying to answer with my PhD is how can we best use data collected by satellites on Earth to understand data collected by satellites studying the surface of other planets?
Cool, very cool. And do you think are you anticipating that there's one answer, or do you think there's more than one answer?
I'd say there's definitely more than one answer.
Okay,
So,
okay. And what about you, Elizabeth? What's your broad question?
My broad question is, what is the impact on adults with physical disabilities who access direct funded attendance services on their community engagement?
Okay. And do you think your research question has one answer or multiple answers?
Multiple, absolutely.
Okay. Well, that's interesting because when I think about my PhD, I actually thought there was just one answer. So my PhD, I was trying to understand how a very specific nutrient got into a very specific bacterial cell. So there's just one answer to my question. And maybe you guys might use a bit of a different approach to your research, but when we're solving a problem with just one answer, we use the research and analysis approach. We dissect that question, collect data, at least to narrow it down to the maybe few most likely answers. And so what I think doctoral students often do is apply that same process to trying to answer the question, what are you going to do with your life? And the problem with that is that that's a question where there isn't just one answer. There's multiple lives that we could live and multiple possibilities for our career paths. And so we teach an approach in the career engagement curriculum that uses design thinking, and it focuses on generating lots of different ideas that extend beyond kind of the narratives or the judgments that we hold for ourselves. And it also involves prototyping and testing those ideas as soon as possible. So we teach this process in our workshops, and we cover everything from kind of the phase of self-discovery, doing some deep self-reflection, to understanding how you can generate those prototypes and talk to people and get an idea of the careers out there. And then we also talk about, effective job search strategies, like you were saying, Gavin, the LinkedIn, the resumes, the interviews, all of the practical components as well. But again, we're changing that question from, what can I do with a PhD in X discipline, to what are the challenges and problems that I can use what I've gained in my PhD to work on and to solve. So it's really a shift in how we approach career development.
Yeah, I think I was just actually just thinking about this right now, but when you mentioned an example of your research, of like what was the broad question that you had, so you definitely had like a very strong biology based research, and I think you're probably a really good example to show that you can transfer your skills in your PhD, because you've gone from studying a specific microbe and understanding how a nutrient went into it to running and developing and organizing these courses and workshops that can help students. So I guess this might be more of a personal question for you, but like, when was it that you realized that you could actually transfer your skills as a PhD student to careers that are outside of the field of biology?
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I love talking about my experience, and it really is what kind of fueled my passion for doing this work. And like you said, had I asked that question of what can I do with a PhD in microbiology, the current job that I'm in wouldn't have been an answer to that question. And so it really did. One of the big things for me was shifting that mindset. And for me, it didn't happen until the end of my PhD. I think as many students do, you kind of procrastinate figuring out what you're going to do. That seems like a problem for later, right? When you're at the beginning of your PhD, your priority is collecting data, starting your research, maybe taking courses. And again, that feeds in, there's that narrative that like there's not many tenure track faculty positions, but sometimes you can get into this belief that, well, I'm the exception, but okay, there's not everyone's going to be it, but I'm going to be the one. And so sometimes you can almost get too focused on trying to be that one. And I would say I was probably one of those people. I had a bit of an open mind, but I really focused on the academic career. And it wasn't until the later stages of my degree that I started thinking about the next steps. And in my discipline, a postdoc is usually required for the faculty position. And it wasn't something that I was really keen to do. And so it was the last year of my PhD, and I was faced with that question: is what's next? And so for me, there was kind of two things that happened. One was a mindset shift from thinking about, again, instead of just thinking about my PhD in microbiology in general, like what type of work do I find valuable? Where do I feel like I'm using my strengths, and what are the skills that I like to use? And when I really started to distill that down, I really enjoyed teaching, facilitation, working with students. I TA'd a lot, and I really enjoyed doing that. And learning and development, as doing a PhD, I just loved learning about things. And in this role, I really get to learn about a variety of professional skills and areas and work with people in different fields. So it really was distilling down what type of work I enjoyed doing. And then the second piece that was really important, and I'd highly recommend to all students, was talking to people. and simply reaching out to people who had my degree or were doing similar things to what I wanted to do, and having conversations with them about, what is your job like? What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What aspects of your job do you enjoy doing? And does that resonate with what I want to do? And those conversations were really helpful in kind of steering my decision and helping me find the right opportunities.
And you mentioned the importance of, I guess you'd call it the informational interview. Would you say, because that's a term I've only started to hear within the last couple of years, would you say it's something that students don't do enough? Maybe just hesitancy to reach out, or not knowing who to reach out to, or?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's something that, again, we might not think about until later in our degree, or we might associate with something that you have to do when you're only on the job search. Or sometimes I think students just don't know that it's something that's appropriate to do. Like it's culturally acceptable to reach out to someone and say, what do you do in your day-to-day life? And they'll tell you. And sometimes people hesitate to have those conversations. But like I said earlier, in our design thinking process, we say prototype, and having conversations with people as soon as possible in your degree is the easiest way to prototype and test your ideas. And just ask someone who is a few years ahead of you or a few years more advanced in their career about how they got there, and if they have any advice for you. And those conversations, I think, should definitely be happening more frequently and sooner in your degree.
Yeah, I think getting putting your name out there and reaching out to people is probably the best way for students to try and figure out more about what they want to do. Because they, as you said, depending on who responds and what they say, you'll probably start to get a better idea of how your skills can actually be applied, if not in your field, but definitely outside your field. So
Yeah.
with all these really great workshops and great opportunities for students to improve their skills and develop new ones, with everything going virtual now for Own Your Future, what would you say is the best way for students to find out about these workshops and to register for them?
Yeah, so all of our workshops are being offered virtually, which I think we've seen a lot of great engagement from students. I think just having a bit more flexibility in that has been better for students. So they're all online, and they're also being recorded as well. So you can find all the recordings for the webinars on our website. And to see our upcoming schedule, you can visit the Western Connect calendar if you're familiar with that. I think it's connect.uwo.ca. You'll find the Own Your Future calendar and see all of our upcoming workshops, and you can register for those there.
We'll make sure to add a link for the calendar in the show notes for anyone who's interested in signing up for any workshops. Is there any that are this month in January, maybe February, that you think might be very important for students?
Yes, I mean, again, I think they're all so great, so it's hard for me to pick one. We have a few, again, coming up, I think, on some of the practical components of the degree, like the writing process, giving oral presentations. A few others that I'm excited about. We have an equity, diversity, and inclusion workshop in March. We also have a workshop on kind of entrepreneurship for PhDs. We're seeing a lot of PhDs either commercialize their research, or in some cases, they're becoming more knowledge translation individuals or consultants in that area. And so a lot of people are starting their own business and, kind of using their knowledge as their product. And so I think this would be a great workshop for anyone who's considering that career path, to get familiarity with how would you even go about starting your own business. So that's something that's new that we've just added this year, and I'm really excited about.
Yeah, I think it's going to be great opportunities for, I think, a lot of students. And I actually might take a look at some of these more workshops. I know I've registered for a few, but I might have to double check and see if there's any that I missed that I think might be.
Equity and diversity inclusion.
Yeah.
March. So it sounds like one I think I'm going to certainly register for, and that sounds like a good one.
Yeah, I didn't know about that one in March, and I think I'm going to sign up for it.
I don't think it's added to the calendar just yet, but it will be soon. And
sneak peek. You're giving us a sneak peek.
I am, yes. And actually, keep an eye out. There will be some more. So that's within our intercultural and social fluency competency, and I anticipate some more curriculum being added to that this semester as well. So keep an eye out for that.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Julie, I just wanted to say on behalf of GradCast, thank you so much for coming on the show for #GradLife and telling us about these very great student development programs and workshops. And I hope this will help a lot more students know about Own Your Future and the great opportunities they can gain from it. Before we do say goodbye, though, is there anything you'd like to mention about Own Your Future? Anyone you think would be very good for the students to know if they want to contact and learn more?
Yeah, I mean, I am always open to talking with students, hearing ideas, anything that you want to talk about with careers. If you just ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. This semester, I actually plan to offer some one-on-one intake appointments through the career counseling team. So those will be specific to doctoral students, and I should be offering those soon. So keep an eye out for that. So I'm always open to just chat about careers or anything you have questions about. And and if you attend workshops and you enjoy them, please tell your friends.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll make sure to spread on the word. So we'd like to thank everyone for listening to this #GradLife episode. I've been your host, Gavin Tolometti, with my co-host, Elizabeth Mohler, and we have been speaking with Dr. Julie Jonkhans about Own Your Future development program here at Western University. If you'd like to join on the show as a guest or learn more about us, you can email us at gradcastradio@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GradCastRadio. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.